I absolutely love the quote, "Work is something you do, not a place you go." So that's definitely food for thought that we can take with us for the rest of the afternoon. The next session is going to be on talent and culture, enablers or bottleneck of innovation. And our moderator is Nicholas Tenard. He's heading growth, people, and operations at CFTE. For those of you that don't know what that stands for, it's Center for Finance, Technology, and Entrepreneurship. Nicholas and his organization work through their platform to provide individuals with the right toolkit to act on technology and innovation to improve financial systems. Nicholas is passionate about organizational change and how technology can shape our future. He has a background in banking, fintech, and startups, and working in both London and in France. So please give him and his panelists a very warm welcome on stage. Thank you so much.
Great. I think we can all come. I'll try to introduce you afterwards. Great, take a seat.
Sure.
Thank you. Well, before introducing the panel, what I wanted to do is I don't know, trying to give a bit of context, right? It's a big title that can be quite tough to cover in 25 minutes, but we'll do our best. And I think we have really diverse profiles that will do their job into sharing their experience. But to give you a bit of context about the topic by itself, like it's true, but we all here at South Summit, so I guess we're all aware of that, but like that technology and digital behaviors are changing how the work is done. So how do we work in organization? How do we create value? And how do we market our products? Right? With that in mind, it's not a new thing, right? It's been more than 20 years that it's the case. And although in all these conferences or in the academic paper, in the news, there's always been a consensus, or it's been a while that there's a consensus about culture, talents, or mindset being the key elements for transformation, for digital transformation. But in reality, like it's hard, or it's not necessarily the biggest, in the facts, there's not necessarily much done in that place. Or the idea is like, there's a lot of talks about culture, transformation, mindset, the right talents, but when you look at the fact, the initiatives inside big corporates, the investment that are made, there's not necessarily much done in that space, right? So what we're trying to do with this panel today will be to first understand concretely how these talents and culture things are impacting innovation, but also to try to isolate a key elements that will really enable any organization to drive towards this innovative culture, right? So I'm really glad to be hosting this panel, really. So what I'll try to do is to briefly introduce you, and the first question I'll have with you will be really to understand why you're here. So I guess it will be also a question to polish a bit the presentation I have from you, right? So immediately on my left, Luis Diaz, which is a managing director at Accenture. He's one of the he's leading talent and organization for Spain, Portugal, and Israel. So he's really a seasoned and experienced in transformation management. So like his day-to-day job is helping large institutions, large organizations to implement transformation in the day-to-day. So it can be on talents, on culture, on mindset, or organization, on process. So it's really with this wide experience that you come here to the stage. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And Laura Gonzalez Lorenzo. Sorry, that is a lead or integration lead at Willis Towers Watson. So she's a seasoned director on HR and really an expert on transformation management. So she started her career in a startup. So she knows both world of startup and large corporates. And she evolved in her career on different HR perspective, really with an international exposure, and she's now working with this in this huge multinational that is doing corporate services, both on people project, but also on risk and on capital projects, right? So we're really glad to have you on the stage as well, and I'll give you the occasion to complete this presentation.
Thank you.
Then we have Philip Jimenez, if my
Correct.
correct. So that's my memory that is still fresh. Who's working in Spaces Regus IEEG. So it's really this huge multinational that is specialized in the workplace innovation. So it's really with his career, he started 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago in this company, led a lot of responsibilities throughout Europe, Latin America, launching businesses in different countries. And now he is the country manager of Spain and the VP sales for Southern Europe. And he really comes to the stage with this expertise of like how workplace and the environment of work has its implication on culture and the way we innovate together, right? And Ignacio, which is a serial entrepreneur. I think we can do that. It's been 15 years that you launch and grow businesses. Quite impressive to start in Spain as a lawyer, then move to the US to launch a business in the music industry, then move to the UK to launch something in advertising, and came back to Spain after all these successful exits on different industries to solve one of the key problems that he had in his previous business, which is hiring. Right? So I think with his new company called Be Wanted, he tries to help millennials, or at least entry people entering the workforce, try to understand, to find the relevant job for them, and simplifying the process on the other side for the company to have the relevant talents around them, right? So really diverse profiles. So I'm really glad that we have this discussion with you guys. And yeah, my first question that I teased just before: why are you here? What's your perspective on this topic? Luis, do you want to start?
Sure, why not? Well, to hopefully shed some light and somehow demystify some of the people elements of enterprise transformation. Sometimes people paint quite a grim picture about the future of work. There's some confusion surrounding how to transform an organization on the inside, what to do in terms of the people side of things. So hopefully that's my contribution to the panel today.
Great, thank you. Laura?
Well, in my case, I am fan number one of how the health and wellness in work environment and how the people and diversity can affect the change in the organization. And I think that it is very interesting to have the opportunity to talk about that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, or as far as we are concerned in the flex space world, innovation and talent have just had a massive impact on the way we work, on our industry. Entrepreneurs are one of the main drivers of change because we are all changing, our lives are changing, the way we work are changing, and for us being here is a big exposure, but also is a good way of learning what's going on in the market.
Great, thank you.
Why am I here?
Yeah.
I don't really know. Actually, I got lost in the way in. I'm here because I want to share my findings, my knowledge, my experience in building a culture of innovation within a startup, which is usually much harder in some ways than in a multinational. Different challenges, I'd say. But mostly to as you said, demystify a little bit of what a culture of innovation is and how difficult transformation is. It's not that difficult, I'd say.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being here. And to kickstart so we're all kind of from this experience that we all accumulate in this stage. The idea was to start with a concrete fact, right? So in your experience, what's the most striking kind of organization process or like practice that is either or has either enabled innovation or being very, very toxic for innovation? Yeah.
I can start with that. I think one of the drivers for innovation is creativity and exchange of knowledge. The best experience I've had is when I put together two people in the same room that were from different backgrounds, different perspectives, different ideas, and the exchange of that information, that culture, led to something new, something we haven't seen, and a new perspective also brought. That was great when it worked. You know, having two people that suddenly find that they're great at doing something together. But if you don't manage that process meticulously, you can find yourself having the opposite effect. You have two people that hate each other, that don't want to work with each other, and all the effort and energy you put into that project goes out of the window. How we learn to differentiate that was just basic human behavior and understanding human characteristics. It's like, yeah, you need to be complementary but different. That's how I saw it.
Great.
I have some good example of how, because I think one of the key elements are the diversity, the autonomy, and the flexibility. And I would like to share one example of how in Willis Tower Watson, that is a big corporation, it is already happening, and this is something that I think that we bring from the startups. I'm working for 16 countries, but I am based in Madrid, and I have 3 colleagues on my team that are based in different places in the world, and we all have different backgrounds, different styles, and sometimes priority, but we inspire each other. In my case, I'm working 4 days per week and work from home, and what I want to explain is how we are moving from a static organization to a more flexible, where it's more a matter of a skill set linked to different projects or assignment, and we are not anymore restricted for your function, your place where you are located, or your business area, right? It's more a needs organization and your personal preference.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Philippe?
Yeah, about 30 years ago, we are still working in the analog area. And the baby boomers and the X generation were working with papers. They were working in the middle of computers, heavy machines and cabling and papers. And all of a sudden, by the early 21st century, end of the 20th century, the digitalization happened. Mm-hmm. And that was like maybe the 4th industrial revolution. And we were now not binding to the offices as we used to be before, but we had the freedom to step out and work exactly where we want, when we want, and how we want, which is freedom today. And we have to make sure that 4 generations work together in a company, some with papers, some that are completely digitalized, like the millennials or Z generation. Today, with the laptop, the mobile phones, and the clouds, and the Wi-Fi, and you name it, we can completely work from everywhere. This is a challenge. Innovation is the main driver. Culture is another important driver, because some directors or bosses still want to see their people working about 12 hours a day. And that's a challenge, just to change their culture and use technology.
Great, thank you. Louis?
Okay, we got some positives. I'm gonna throw in a couple negatives.
Great.
One of those is a culture of fear within an organization. Some of the clients that we work with are big corporations that have a certain cultural mindset, a certain way of doing things, a conception of excellence in everything that they do. And when that happens, and when that permeates the organization, and people live in fear of being penalized for making mistakes, then that really hampers innovation. The other thing that's really negative, and that's, I think, not good for an organization that wants to foster innovation, is the small-scale mindset, the tactical, the really siloed mindset, where they say, okay, I'll put together a few people, an interdisciplinary team, a cell within an organization, or an innovation department. Innovation cannot be confined to the innovation department. It needs to be systemic. Otherwise, it's like a drop of water in the ocean, and that doesn't affect change.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. Thank you very much. It's true that failure is something that is always highlighted, like the fear of failure as key for innovation, and maybe a bottleneck for other big organizations. We want to jump on the first big subject, but I see that the time is running very, very fast. So we'll try to accelerate as well. So we wanted to talk about both talents, because it's like in organization, in culture, talent is one of the big important part, let's say, and the culture, so more like the frame that is around the talent, right? So on talents, there was one question about, and it's a wide question, but maybe we can try to go to a snippet of answers, which is, what are the skills that are required to innovate today? If you had any example on your background, what can you see? Maybe you can share, but I guess on Be Wanted you have a lot of skills that are in demand.
We do. It's hard to put down which specific skills you need to have an innovative personality. When we look for talent, we understand talent in a very broad way. I think it's a buzzword that everybody uses and throws around. Everybody wants talent, but it's hard to define. It's hard to define and hard to find too. In regards with innovation, we find that most the combination of skills, personal skills, are a combination of knowledge, imagination, creativity, and drive. I mean, we find, even at Be Wanted ourselves, that in order to think ahead, you need to have the imagination. But to properly think ahead, you need the knowledge of what's going on around you. You cannot think ahead if you're simply just imagining. That's dreaming. The third part is creativity. You have to foster it. Most people think that creativity is something that you are born with, that is something genetic, and it's not. I mean, what I try to do with our guys is push them to go out to museums and to art and see design, because it's everywhere, and it is something you can learn. And you really can learn to be creative. It's a matter of practice, to be honest. And everything is great, and all those combination of skills are awesome. But if you don't have drive, the drive to push forward with your idea, to fight the nose of your colleagues, your bosses, your clients, your industry, your shareholders, then you won't get anywhere. Because innovation is not a process of, as we think, creation is beautiful, and suddenly you come with this idea and then you transform things. It's usually more of a fight with the status quo, something that's already there that you want to change. And everything that stays in status is reluctant to change, by definition. So you have to put enough effort to kind of move that thing from its natural place. It's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be for the weak-minded or the weak-willed. So for me, the most important one is that drive. Everything else, I believe, you can learn, and you can exchange, but
it's interesting, and so it's mainly personal skills. What's your position about technical skills or digital skills?
There's been a really big push for technical skills, and that makes a lot of sense, because we're in the digital era, which is in part about technology. Yeah. So there's been a very strong emphasis on the STEM careers, the science, the technology, engineering, math. We're transitioning towards a different concept and a different acronym. Rather than STEM, we're talking about HEAT, right? Where the acronym stands for humanities, engineering, arts, and technology. Mm-hmm. Engineering and technology continue to be very important in the future, but you also need the soft skills. You need to be able to help people make sense of the data and visualize data to consume it in a different way. So you need an artistic mindset to do that. You need to be able to train robots in empathy, for example. So someone with a humanities expertise and sensibility is better equipped to do that. So yeah, I would say those two.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I think we'll skip the acquiring skills question or acquiring talents question and move towards the culture, because like having great talents is great, but if you don't necessarily have the frame in order to make them work and make them innovate, it's a bit hard. When we started this subject, the idea of transformation, and with this expertise that we have in terms of transformation, how do we change a culture? How do we turn an organization that is a traditional one into an innovative one? So you wanted to share about your experience at Iberia, I think.
Yeah. I was managing the change piece of work for a project called Operational Improvement Program in Iberia, where we were improving our process, technology, and workspace. And one of the key elements for that we took into consideration was to put the focus on that the leaders lead the change, and this is very important. And also we were incorporating this change in their performance objectives. So this is very important. The other thing was to invest in the people on training for them to understand what the innovation looked like. And also was a real desire of to change every aspect of how the function operate in order to achieve this agility and this innovation. So it was the principal things.
That's great. And in terms of implementation, so like there's a question of so starting from the top, like training and so, but how do you embrace or how do you engage the current workforce in this transformation? How is it something that is shared within the company, and how do you, in a sense, granularly change the mindset of EVAs? I don't know if you want to continue, Laura, or maybe Luis from your expertise.
How do you do that? Well, you have to understand that culture is a living thing. Culture involves many things, including emotions. You have to tackle that from a technical perspective. Sometimes people refer to culture as the soft stuff. There's nothing soft about culture and how you change it. You need to have KPIs, and you have to manage that change rigorously. You have to implement goals setting, incentive management, consequence management to ensure the behavior change. But you also have to take into consideration the emotional aspect of things. And we work with designers to take people on the journey to culture transformation, to address the different emotional states that the different employees goes through in a culture transformation.
Great, thank you. And I saw the 1 minute addition that we have. I wanted to understand more in terms of workplace, because like you've been working with this real estate and workplace innovation. How does the workplace impacts innovation, or how does it help this transformation?
I think it's the other way around. Innovation transform the workplace.
Okay.
Traditional workplace, as we all knew, or will still know, doesn't work because they are inflexible, because they're expensive, because they are inefficient. And now technology, as I said before, are enabling us to move out of the office and work from any places. So we can avoid, for example, the commuting, the famous 2 hours commuting a day. That is about a month, labor month a year on the traffic. This is completely unproductive. So technology is helping us to step out, to be more efficient, and to be more productive. But it also gives us the freedom to work, as I said, where, when, and how we want. So innovation is key for us. And actually, innovation for the first time is enabling us to work differently. And we do work differently because even our life, our paradigmas have changed. Today we are in a liquid society. We want everything now. You want to see a movie, you go to Netflix. You listen to music, it's not tomorrow, it's now, it's Spotify. The same with offices. Companies are moving out, they are downsizing, they're increasing, they need flexibility. And technology is the first driver. But there's another important driver, it's talents. And if companies want to attract talents and retain talents, they have to do something else than give just a check. They have to give them an environment. They have to give them a disruptive workplace. They have to give them the freedom to balance their professional life and their private life. And if they want to do that, they have to give them a different environment. And this is the issue, is bottom down. Yep. Because the workers want to be free to work wherever they want, but the problem is up there because the managers still want to count how many hours there are and if their people are in the office, whereas they should just look at results and productivity as opposed to where they're working from.
Great, and I see the stop mentioned, and I think it's a great way to conclude in the sense that it's really something that needs to be driven by the top, right? It's a strategic issue. It's not necessarily something that is on the side of all the strategy that large institution can drive. And coming back to the introduction, it's really something that we need more investment and more resources and more space, finally, in the strategy for those transformation and culture issues. So thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you.